Hey everybody, thank you for watching Leaf by Leaf. Number 1, themystery.doc. This one by Matthew McIntosh, or McIntosh. This is from Grove Atlantic, and this one's special to me because I wrote a review for this, and it's the very first review I ever published with Rain Taxi, and then I also submitted it for Grove Atlantic's national book review contest for this one, and I got runner-up, and they sent me a signed copy of it. This is the original copy I read. This is one of the most interesting books. It kind of reminds me of Mark Z. Danielewski, where he gets very playful. Some of the pages are blank. There's computer code. There's redacted text. It also, smacks of Tristram Shandy. There are photos. Some of them are flip book style, like this one, where you can watch this guy walking down the pier. It's just on and on and on. It got criticized a lot for whether there's actually a story here. There is a story here, but it's more of an experience than a story. Number 2, William Gaddis's The Recognitions. I have a video dedicated to some remarks about this one. This is definitely one of my favorite novels, not just one of my favorite big books, but one of my favorite novels. There's this neurotically obsessed artist who does fabrications or reproductions of famous art, and his one thing that drives him is he wants to conquer science. And there's a beautiful scene at the end of this, and it also has a lot of ties into William Gaddis's life. He did not like the automated player piano that came out around his time. He felt that, this was trying to debunk the actual human player and replace it with a machine. Number 3, The Mad Patagonian. I also reviewed this book. This was the second book I reviewed for Rain Taxi. It purports to be by Javier Pedro Zabala. I've since found out that that is not the true author, though even when I read it, there were all kinds of rumors churning through the internet. This is a sprawling book of 1,200 pages with a sumptuous translator's introduction. Of course, that's a fabricated character, but as you can see with my post-it notes, I got a lot out of this. It is an extremely intelligent novel, and the author divides this into 3 books of three sections of 3 books each, and each one takes on a different voice and a different mode. So there's that 1950s film noir style, there's a slapdash comedy style, there's a very dense multi-generational Gabriel Garcia Marquez style, but the imagery and the threads that are woven through this are not to be denied. This is a very successful writing project. Number 4, Naked Singularity by Sergio de la Pava. This is some of the most fun I've ever had reading. He weaves in his life as a lawyer, his life as a student of philosophy, and his very, very keen sense of humor. There are scenes in this book that had me literally laughing out loud, hysterically. But it's also, there is a very well plotted out, tight story woven through this thing. And there's also attention to dialect and conversational speech in the same matter of Gaddis's J.R. Number 5, The Great Infinite Jest, David Foster Wallace. The first time I read this, I was completely overwhelmed. The second time, it was like being with an old friend. There is no doubt that this man was a genius. He said that the form and structure of this novel was that of a Sierpinski gasket. I still have no clue what that means. I don't even know what to look for. But this guy, he was a deep student of mathematics and philosophy. and a very gifted maximalist writer. This is all about modern discontents and anxiety and depression and addiction, but with a nice sheen of humor and farce all around it. Number 6, The Tunnel by William Gass. This is a book that took him 30 years to write. Here's this nice blurb by Michael Silverblatt on the front, and he says, "The most beautiful, most complex, most disturbing novel to be published in my lifetime." And yeah, this is about a guy who's trying to finish his book on Hitler, and he also begins digging a tunnel in his basement. But this is one of those books where you find the clash of beautifully written prose and the depravity of the world come together. Number 7, Gravity's Rainbow, Thomas Pynchon. What can be said about this novel in just a few seconds? I have no idea. But this is talking about, this is taking place during the Blitzkrieg in London. Yeah, you have to read it. Number 8, My Struggle, or Min Kampf by Karl Ove Knausgaard. This was actually a delightful reading experience for me. I think I read the first 4 volumes. I came to it late, so I had all of them except for this last one in my possession. But I think I read the first 4 in the course of 2 different evenings. I read the first 2 one evening and the other 2 the next. I could not put this down. Knausgaard has a way of talking about the most mundane things, but in a way that makes it so epic and extraordinary that you can't put it down. It starts from the beginning of his life and works his way all the way up. It contains all the turmoil with his friends and family once they realized that he was writing this autobiographical novel and including them in it, and in usually not very flattering ways. But then finally he put the capstone on this project with book 6. This is a massive book, and it even includes like a 400-page essay on Hitler in the very middle of it. Because of course My Struggle is the name of Mein Kampf. In the Norwegian it's Min Kampf. But you know, Karl Ove is very deliberate about provocation, but in a very classy way. Number 9, Proust, à la recherche du temps perdu, or In Search of Lost Time. This is not the French translation, though I have the first couple in French. It's hard for me to get through because my French is not at this level. But this is the Andreas Mayer and Terence Kilmartin update of Scott Moncrief's translation, and it's in 6 books, but you know, it has all 7 volumes. It condenses it condenses The Captive and the Fugitive into 1 volume, volume 5. What can be said about Proust? His extended meditation on memory and his coming of age and his blossoming into a great novelist. Anybody with any interest in the life and development of a writer will get a lot out of this, but his philosophical digressions are what make this book shine. I don't know many people who like to come to this to experience extended scenes of early 20th century French salon life. It's pretty boring in my opinion. But another thing that makes this book shine is his the element of sexual jealousy that runs through this whole thing. I don't think I've ever read anything so tragic in that vein. But again, it's all about memory, and I've heard Proust referred to as a psychologist, a neurologist, and all this stuff. I wouldn't go that far, but he's definitely a great dialectical thinker on the concept of memory and how it affects reality. Finally, book 10, Fukos Pendulum by Umberto Eco. This is one of my favorites. I talk about this in my video on the infinity of lists, but here we have everything that Dan Brown tried to do and failed in light of this novel. This novel came out in the 80s. The sections of it are divided into the Sephirot from Kabbalah. It starts off with epigrams that are unforgivingly in Hebrew. There's no translation provided. That's sort of like the name of the rose. I had to buy a companion that would translate all the Latin for me because, like I said, he's very unforgiving. He expects you to do some work. But this is about conspiracy. And of course, Umberto Eco is a medievalist. He's a Middle Ages scholar. He's also the spearhead of semiotics, the study of signs. But this is about 3 editors who sit around and read Middle-aged texts on the Knights Templar and so on, and they decide, just for fun, to concoct a conspiracy theory, and in the face of that, fiction becomes reality for them. The other reason I like this is because it's like a miniature encyclopedia. You will learn about things you didn't know. So that's it. Those are my top 10 big books. Please tell me, what are yours?